true strength does not have a form, it doesn't have a gender, it doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a brand. I think true strength literally comes down to a decision that you know is the right choice to make, and maybe not the easiest choice to make.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. This is the What You Don't Hear podcast. This is a life podcast. It's a story podcast. It's a bit of an open journal dive into people's lives as I sit and I uncover the real story behind my guest's journey, finding out what makes them who they are, digging into the parts of their story that we otherwise wouldn't normally get to hear about. Now, who am I? I am your host. My name is Ross Tyson. I'm a freelancer of all kinds. I'm a creative director. I've been known to dabble a bit as a filmmaker, and I'm also quietly trying to build a media empire. But of course, as you can tell in this case, I'm a podcaster because in general, I'm just somebody who really enjoys talking to people. So before I reveal and get into who I'm talking to this week, as always with these intros as of late, before we get to the conversation, I've got some cool stuff to tell you about first because I don't keep this show afloat totally on my own at the moment. While it is a one-man program all in all, I've got some wonderful sponsors who are helping me out a ton, and I'm going to tell you about them right now. So first, this episode is brought to you in part by Makers Social. That is a place that is located right here in the Franklinton Arts District where I happen to make this podcast. So, what is it? Well, Maker Social is a DIY project bar where you can get your hands messy with some fun projects like woodworking, jewelry making, painting, crafting of all kinds, or even making your own real leather wallets. And they also host private events such as team building, corporate events, and birthdays. Now, what's more interesting is they also have a full bar loaded with cocktails, local beers, and a very rare bourbon list for you bourbon collectors out there. So what's more fun than getting your craft on with some friends while maybe getting your drink on as well for a night out? So if you do want to do that, you can make a reservation on their website, and if you do, right now you can type in the code WYDH into the notes section when you make your reservation to get $10 off your project's booking. So head over to makerscolumbus.com if you want to go check it out. And if you want to book a reservation, enter WYDH into the notes of your checkout for $10 off and just support some fun local things that are going down here in Franklinton. So, this episode is also brought to you in part by PromoWest Productions, and you know how it goes by now. They're bringing a lot of cool shows and making them happen here in Columbus, both at Kemba Live and Newport Music Hall, and of course, a couple other venues as well. So, if you want to check out any upcoming concerts, you can visit PromoWestLive.com, or if you know a show that's coming to town and you're ready to purchase tickets, you can visit AXS.com. So again, for tickets, that's AXS.com, or just for more info on any show that they've got coming through town, you can visit PromoWestLive.com. All right, let's get to this week's guest in this week's conversation. So, the guest I have on the show for this episode is my friend Jordan Hardgrow, who is both an independent personal trainer and a trainer at FitOneFour, which of course is how I met him. And this is a powerful conversation, honestly, kind of built off of really just a wild story that Jordan has. And well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'll just say that this story includes him almost being murdered and barely surviving. So there is truly a lot in this one. And yes, while that's like a big hook point and kind of a teaser for the conversation you're about to hear, in general, this is one of the best conversations I've had on the show because Jordan just shares some really amazing outlooks on life and just a lot of good points on just the power of a positive mindset. So there's a lot to be learned in this one, and I'm stoked that I got to sit down and get to know Jordan in this way. He's a really solid dude and just made for a great chat. So let's dive in. This is episode 66 of What You Don't Hear and the story of Jordan Hardgrow. Cool, man. Well, the camera's up and running.
Cool.
I think it's time to make a podcast.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited.
Ready to make this happen?
Yes,
dude, Jordan,
man.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being down to do this, man.
sure.
You and I have not actually gotten to really get to know each other whatsoever. You just recently came on as a new trainer at FitOneFour.
That's right.
A gym that, as you can see by the conveniently
That's
worn
right.
T-shirt
It's good merch.
that I frequent. I go there. I train boxing with T. So we've chatted in passing in the gym. Haven't really gotten to know each other that well, but I've been told that you have a crazy story.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, man.
And actually, past guest of the show, other trainer at the gym, Adam Quick, was the one who told me about that. He was like, "Hey, I don't know when you need some new guests or whatever, but like you need to get Jordan on the show because I think it's a podcast worthy conversation." I'm like, okay, cool. Like an excuse to get to know each other a lot better anyway.
For sure.
And what better place to do that than on a recorded podcast that'll be shared with everyone forever.
Exactly. They'll love it. They'll love it. No, it's one, same thing, man. Same feels. It's fun because Adam actually told me about you first as well. Like I know you're kind of in helping out with our social media, doing everything like that. Really the man behind the scenes with everything. And he was like, I told him that he needs to talk to you, so expect that to happen. I was like, okay, let me just wait for a little bit. And I was like, you know what, I'll take the step too, because me myself also trying to do my podcast thing as well. It's tough. We were just talking about this before, going through the editing process, like coming from the ground up. It's a lot of work. So even for me, like I'm just excited. So the story. Yeah. All right. So originally from Westerville.
Okay.
I moved out to San Diego back in 2016. So just wanted to change, right? Like was working here, thinking about doing nursing school, not thinking about nursing school. I was a nurse's assistant for a long time. And dude, you wipe so many butts there every night and it gets old. It gets old.
Right,
I mean, it's a good thing and people need it. And that's not all you're doing in the hospital anyway. So don't let me steer you in that direction. But anyway, out in San Diego, enjoying time. The pandemic hits, right? Like, still trying to figure out what I want to do in my life. I was a server at the time. I just left my sales job. So left my sales job. I know I'm good at serving tables. That's what I've been kind of doing since I was out there. The money was good. Pandemic hit, swiped all that underneath me. And so then I'm stuck, right? Everybody's in quarantine. You can't leave, you know? And so the first thing I did was like, you know what? I think one thing I don't want to do is lose all the fitness that I've gained, right? Like big fitness background, even when I was in school. Went to school for exercise science to become a physical therapist. So out in San Diego, I'm like, here's my chance to become a personal trainer, right? I got nothing else to do. Like, let me try to figure this out and put all my energy into it. So doing well in that. Literally, like, I want to say like maybe 6 months to a year into it. Things are going pretty well, right? The pandemic's still going on, but they're kind of starting to let people out of their cages a little bit. And me being single at the time, I was like, you know what, let me just see what's going on in the dating world, right? I'm sure everybody was on it anyway. Anyway, so that night, went on a date. The date was really cool. I'm coming home from the date, and just to give you some more prefaces here, my car shit the bed probably like that week. And I had bought a new car, not a new car, but just another one. It was a stick shift. It was just what money could buy at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to drive a stick. So my roommate let me use his car. And so that night I'm going downtown and I knew where I parked the car, but I can't in my mind for some reason think about which car I took to this date. So I'm looking for the car, like where the heck is this thing? And I don't know if you've ever been to San Diego before.
I have, but not really. Like I haven't traversed the streets of San Diego.
It's a big city, and it's good to traverse, but you better have somebody with you. And most of the time, it's kind of the feel in any kind of big city. But again, at the time, and it's kind of blurry. I usually consider myself a gentleman. Would always walk, whoever's there to their car, and my date didn't want to be walked to her car. For whatever reason, I respect that. So, again, I'm trying to look for my car, and somebody's walking behind me. Not only they're walking behind me, they're like harassing me. I can't remember what they were saying at all. But I'm one of those guys that I would like to think I'm a pacifist. I mean, I've been in, fights before, but I'm not proud of that kind of stuff, right? I'm kind of one of those guys that would rather preach peace before I preach war. So I'm walking and I'm just ignoring this guy, and this guy just doesn't let up. And so from this part on, pretty much it's spotty for me. So a lot of it is witness testimony. I can remember getting amped up, like I'm about to get in a fight. This guy, instead of like leave me alone, I'm walking, and he ends up cutting me off. So the guy's standing in front of me. I don't remember what words were exchanged. Some people were saying I was kind of like trying to see like, what are you trying to do? Are we fighting here? What are we doing? and we end up getting into a scuffle. So we're fighting. We got to be throwing punches or something, right? So this part I can kind of jump back into. I remember being shocked at the time because this guy had pulled out a knife. And he pulled out a knife and he ended up stabbing me. So he got me the first couple times. And so at this point, I just remember being shocked. Like, I'm completely like, what? And I'm pretty sure at the time I asked him, I said, did you just stab me? And again, it's not like, obviously I'm not calm at this point. I'm amped and shocked. And I think at the time I'm falling back. So I fall backwards. And at that time, the guy is still coming towards me. Somebody, whoever this Good Samaritan was, tried to pull him away, right? So witness testimony, at that point, had already been stabbed 5 times. I'm on the ground. Witness pulls him off. He breaks free, and he runs over next to me, kneels down, and gets me like 15, 20 more times. Yeah, fucking crazy, right?
What?
Fucking crazy. And so, even crazier, I can remember laying on the ground. I remember, having this like cold feel, like just literally like cold, And I don't know if you've ever had like a gash before or anything, but you can feel the air kind of come across the gash. And so I can feel that. I can see a whole bunch of people standing over me and trying to keep me awake. So I can remember that part. Anything else, I'm in and out of consciousness. He ended up stabbing me twice in the heart. He stabbed me 4 times in one lung, 2 times in another, a whole bunch in my midsection. So clearly I'm bleeding out at this point. And like had it not been for the witnesses, had it not been for the first responders, I wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't. Even then, like, there was a really strong chance that I should not be here. I ended up losing so much blood. Over the course of that like day or so, I ended up losing like over 10 units of blood. And I think the human body only has like 10 units, maybe 5 units. It's a lot of blood. At the time, they ended up getting me onto the ambulance to get me away. And they said that I was having full conversations with them, which is good to know, right? Because who the fuck? Like, yeah. And so from the point where I'm in the ambulance into the hospital, I flatline. And so my heart stops. So I'm pretty sure I jumped in and out twice. The longest time, though, was I'm pretty sure it was 8 to 10 minutes. And so they had to go in, they had to open heart surgery me, and they had to go in and massage my heart. So, yeah. And so at that time, like, I mean, to think it's long enough to, like, sit still for a minute, to be massaging somebody's heart that's not moving for 10 minutes is nuts, or even more than, like, 3. And they ended up having to shock me back. Thankfully, like, it only took, like, 1, and then I was back. Yeah, so a lot of transfusions and everything. So in my perspective, all I remember is waking up. It's kind of foggy, right? And I look over, and my mom is actually sitting next to me. My mom's from here. And so very surprised, right? Like, I don't know what's going on. But my mom's a nurse. So if I'm in a hospital setting and I know my mom's there, okay, I can recognize where I'm at. Confused on why I'm there, but I know I'm okay. And Mom and I are just having small talk. Mom, what are you doing here? What's going on? She's like, hey, honey, here for you. And I literally can remember asking her, I was like, Mom, just be real. Like, I got COVID, huh? Like, I got COVID. That's why I'm in here. You're here because it's that bad.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was like, honey, no. And she ended up telling me everything. And at this time, it's funny because you probably wouldn't remember a lot of things, especially on all the stuff they had me on. But I can remember being so surprised and be like, you're bullshitting me, Mom. I remember like looking at the nurses like, listen, my mom usually doesn't bullshit me. Like, tell me she's lying. And she's like, no, that's actually true. And then so from then on, I don't know if it was like subconsciously or if it was just one of those things to where a flip switched. And it was just all positive vibes. It wasn't like, oh my God, like this just happened to me, my life's over. It's like, oh my God, I survived that. Like, wow. And so from then on, like again, COVID was going on, so my mom couldn't stay in the hospital with me. I ended up having to be in a room by myself for 3 weeks. Couldn't eat, couldn't drink. I was just chewing on gum the whole time, man. It was brutal stuff. So here I am, a year later.
Wow.
Yeah,
dude,
nutty stuff.
So I'm glad that we just kicked the door wide open on just like, all right, what's the story?
Jump right in the water, right?
Because like, that's the thing is like with this show, if there's anybody coming on the show that I don't necessarily know, I don't do a deep dive like into their social media to like gather everything. I like to find everything out like real time as we're talking about it. And I had known of like hints of your story, but I didn't know.
Yeah, man.
All that.
Crazy shit. Crazy shit.
So that was all in San Diego, right?
That all happened in San Diego, January 16th of 2021.
And so how long did you end up being in the hospital for?
3 weeks. 3 weeks. What's crazy is, like, I remember waking up. I was in restraints, right? Because at the time I didn't know that I was, in a hospital. And they had an NG tube in me, right? So that's how they're feeding me. I also had a whole bunch of chest tubes because my lungs had collapsed. So, what's weird? I think I can tap back in and, like, I don't know. You can probably draw yourself, because being in CrossFit, you can kind of push yourself through something, right? Like this is going to suck, but let me just hold on for the next 5 minutes. It's kind of like the same thing, but with this NG tube, man. Like, I remember, like, pulling it out, like, if I can just get it all the way out. And I did. Ugh. The shitty thing is they had to put it back in. And then not only that, after that, they had to strap me back in. So another one of those things, like, I remember talking to my brother. They had called, and so they put the phone up to my ear, and they had to tell me to calm down. And so it's crazy because I remember I can move around. I actually ended up probably, like, within, or when I was able to, I can get up and walk around. So, I mean, that was pretty early on. And what's also crazy about that is it's a miracle enough that I'm alive, but even more of a miracle that I'm up walking around. And I think the doctors, like, really bought into that. And so they started taking my stuff out, but too early. So, yeah, dude, like, that was probably one of, like, the most painful times was the time where I had to get my chest tubes put back in. Yeah, so they took them out. They're like, everything's great. We're going to take these out. You're going to be out of here in no time. And next thing you know, my lungs collapse again. So, yeah, dude, tough. And so they come back in. They tell me, like, listen, we got to put these back in. I'm like, all right, I guess we got to do it, no problem. And so they put it back in. I can remember the Bills and the Chiefs were playing for the first time in the AFC Championship. Because I remember just being in the hospital. I'm like, I'm watching this fucking game. Nothing stopped me from watching this game. And, yeah, I'm having surgery right then. The surgery's done. The doctors walk out the room. Okay, we made it. And I was awake. Obviously, they gave me some kind of, painkillers, whatever. The attending doctor comes back in, and he's shaking his head. And I'm like, talk to me, man. Just fill me in. Don't do that. Tell me what's going on. And he's like, listen, we actually put the chest tube in too close to your pericardium, so we're going to have to take it out and then put it back in. And I was like, you know what? I was like, it's cool. Just let's do it. Let's just knock it out. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And so they did that. That night, once everything had, like, wore off, dude, I had this weird, like, feeling to where I was sweating but cold. I was shivering, and it was probably an 8 out of 10 for me. That's probably the worst pain that I've felt since I was in there. It was fucking rough. The only other pain I can think of that was worse than that, and I'm kind of one of those guys who likes to have a poker face. I don't want to show that I'm, like, hurting or anything. Every morning, I had this big wound back on because they had to open me up to resection my small intestine. Like, he had got me to where it got so deep. You have this, like, big artery that comes down from your heart all the way down. I think it's the inferior vena cava, and he had nicked that. And so they had to go in, take some intestine out just to make sure because that was damaged too. But they had this big wound back on to, like, suck out all the fluids, right, to help it heal. It was on this big-ass bandage. And so every morning, I'd be ready for it. The doctor would come in, and she would just peel that bandage off, and it took for all. You could feel everything. So I'm just sitting here, like, I got a cool vibe in the doctor, like, physically, but, like, in my head, I'm like, it hurts so fucking bad.
I mean, how could you not be?
Dude.
I don't care what anybody
I
can do.
know.
Like, there's no way.
Yeah, it's tough.
How many times did you get stabbed?
So, they never got an exact number, but 21 plus. So a lot of them have healed. You can probably see, like, right up here, there's a couple right here.
Yeah.
I have actually one on my chin. And then you can see. The camera doesn't matter. Yeah. So I got a couple, like, down here. Yep. And then a lot right here. And then I also have, like, where they open me up for open heart surgery. And there's a couple stab wounds up here. The dude got me, like, in my nipple somewhere. Yeah. We went through and counted. Like, physically, the ones that we can see, it's about 21 to 22.
That is
Yeah, it's nuts.
Insane,
it's fucking
dude.
Nuts. It's crazy.
And I mean, obviously insane that you survived all of that.
Right.
I mean,
most people don't make it through one, like, or two, let alone 21 plus, man. In the heart, like, it's crazy.
Dude, I mean, literally, like, heart, lungs, like, okay, so, you know, not to...
No, please. Ask away, man.
Like, I mean, was there an investigation? Do we know
Yeah.
why, what
Sure.
happened? Where's the dude? Like,
Okay. Yeah, there definitely was an investigation. Do we know why? No. I'll say this. He ended up like trying to get on a train or a trolley like just right outside of where it happened. And not only that, where the event happened, it was right next to a police station. So I mean, thankfully that he was stupid enough to do that there. And not only that, there was a whole bunch of witnesses. So they all saw it. Somebody was calling, somebody was there to help. Everything again just happened at the perfect moment after that terrible moment. He ended up getting arrested right away. We kind of found out more about the guy, and at his first hearing, that's kind of when things hit for me. They were just talking about what had happened, and so I had to hear about exactly what happened through like witness testimony and what the prosecutors put out, which is wild.
You were getting filled in on the story.
Oh
like,
man.
literally.
Imagine like an out of body experience. You're hearing about yourself while somebody else is telling a story. Like it's a true crime story, but you are the character while you're watching a version of yourself.
And you like hardly remember most.
Exactly. So I had to like think about it, and super heavy stuff. But this guy, 20-year-old kid, his dad owned a construction company, supposed like no history of any kind of like bad things to happen. When I put a post out on TikTok. My girlfriend's a really big TikTok person, and it blew up. And one of the people that were on there said that they were there and said the guy looked like he was drugged out. Fast forward to the time where we actually had the hearing. So what had happened in between then is prosecutors came, they talked to me, they said, listen, like, pressing charges, how would you like to proceed with this? This is an attempted murder case, which is wild enough. So in California for, I think it's first degree attempted murder, second degree. So either one, like, they have to prove that it was premeditated. But the fact that it was his first offense, his highest offense would have, or his highest time in jail would have been 10 to 14 years, 8 to 14 years, something like that. I mean, small amount, right, for somebody to try to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was asking for 8. He was asking for 8 years. And in my mind, I was like, no, there's no way I could come to an agreement to let you only stay there for 8 years. That's not fair. I mean, the only reason that you're not getting you're in for life is because I survived. Yeah. And so, again, like, just like I'm somebody who likes to preach peace before war, I'm somebody that literally tries to find, like, true strength and forgiveness. And that is the hardest thing in the world. Like, you get it. You're in the gym all the time. You see people, like, different forms of strength. And in my mind, like, it's stronger not to throw the punch. It's stronger. In my mind, true strength is being like, I know exactly what you did to me, but I'm not going to let what you did control my life because of you, right? So in my mind, I'm like, I'll never forget this, right? This is going to be something that binds me to this person for the rest of my life, whether I like it or not, right? That's just the reality of it. But at the end of the day, what would a good person do? That's kind of like the decision making that I've made throughout this entire time. And a good person, again, would find true peace in knowing that it was not only the good people around me, good first responders, and myself that got me through that. My loved ones, everybody else, not him. So at the end, I was like, look, man, we'll give him 10. Go in there for 10 years. Hopefully at that point, you get the same energy that I gave you, and you figure out how to get the help that you need, and you figure out how you're going to make yourself a better person, because you got a lot of fucking work to do. So that's where we're at with that.
Man, so props to you, of course,
thanks, I appreciate
for doing that, because that is exactly what was going through my mind as you're racing through everything.
Right.
What happened? Because we hear the stories all the time, right? A terrible person does a terrible thing, and then the people affected by it have that decision-making process of, okay, do I make you pay for this? How much do I make you pay for this?
Right.
And how much do I stoop to your level? How much, just like you said, do I let you have control over changing me as a person?
Right.
And that is hard. I've never directly experienced anything like that.
Right.
But just anytime I hear a story like that, and I'm hearing yours right now, I cannot understand the difficulty of doing that.
Right. And in my mind, I think in the moment, it didn't feel difficult. Even to this day, it didn't feel I would make that decision as quick as I did before. I think what's hard, there's the hardest part about all of this, the true pain, is like seeing how my loved ones were affected by all this, right? Like, clearly I'm okay, but there was a time when all that was happening. The hospital didn't want to release my information, so I went missing to the rest of the world when I got assaulted. Right. So and I would like to think I'm a good, friendly person. I have a lot of friends, right? And so if I'm not responding or anything like that, something's wrong. And so at the time, my roommate, I was supposed to return the car back to my roommate that I borrowed, and I was keeping track with him all day, letting him know where I was, blah blah blah. Anyway, he stops getting texts from me, and he was actually the first one to sound the alarm. He called my parents and like, hey, I haven't heard from Jordan and such and such. We need to do something. Or I think he called my other really close friend, my best friend Will, and said the same thing. And so then there's this big search to try to figure out where I am. So yeah, so I'm over. I wake up, and then these guys that went through all this stuff, and then like finding me, and not only finding me, like knowing what happened to me after that, like that's a lot for anybody to bear. So for me to be, as forgiving, I understand why a lot of my loved ones probably find more difficulty in doing that. And what's harder, right? Forgiving this guy who I probably will never ever see again, or trying to get my loved ones and my family to follow the lead that I've set. Like that's tough. Like somebody that, you think about it, like your loved one just got stabbed a whole bunch of times by some fuck all person. Who's that person? Like, you don't even know who you just stabbed. Like, what are you doing? Like, you don't deserve anything. But that person that got stabbed is like, listen, we need to just back away and walk away. Like, how could you? Now, I don't think anybody was acting malicious towards me, and I don't think that they, a lot of people actually just follow the lead, and they kind of did the same thing that we've been doing right now. Is just taking that energy and turning something positive into it. But that's the whole point about being a good person, right? You don't want to be anything like that guy. I'll tell you what, man, one of the points where I really was trying to test myself, and again, just the universe tested me, just like back to the pandemic. Like, I have no direction, but I know I have a passion about something, and believing in yourself is the hardest thing to do, and trusting yourself is the hardest thing to do. I didn't have to show up for the actual sentencing. Like, that could have just watched that on TV, but I called. First of all, I asked my girlfriend if she can come with me. I asked my family if they can come with me, and I asked some of my closest friends who are available to come with me, and we all went. And my goal, because it's so spotty, I can't remember what this guy looked like. And so my goal, I had to see him in the face. I had to look death right in the face. And I walked in, and I think he understood. I mean, at the time, I'm sure he knew what I looked like. I didn't know what he looked like. Even like when they were doing like the whole original arraignment and everything, he had his mask on. And I even asked the lawyer before he went in, I was like, is there any way the judge can have him remove his mask? Because I need to see his face. And went in there, man, and that was probably one of the most intense, like 5 to 10 minutes. It was a staring contest between this guy. Like, I really was peering into this guy, trying to figure out where the humanity was in there. Mm-hmm. Like, let me make sure that I'm confirming that I'm making the right decision, giving you this time. And everybody, the family got to get up, say what they wanted to say or say what they needed to say. And all I can think about being in that room at the time, like he didn't make me like have any more emotions than I was already expecting. Like, I knew this was going to be a rough moment, but like, again, going up and like hearing what my mom and my sister and my brother and my dad and my twin had to say, like, really brought me to tears every time. And the saddest thing about it is his family was there, and they were a row ahead of us, and I don't think his mom stopped crying. And like, here you have like this evil person. I don't want to even call him evil, but he did a very evil act. Mm-hmm. All you could see, though, the human side of it is he was loved by his mom, and it was just, she was so taken back. The dad too, and like, that's all I could think about. I was like, damn, man, I couldn't imagine what my parents, would have had to go through if I can see some shit like that. And so after we leave, or after it's over, they sentenced him or whatever. It's funny because he didn't like change his face or anything while all of us talked until my mom got up there, and she said what she had to say, and then broke down after that. Couldn't keep it together.
He did?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Everybody else, we're all emotional right now, but I feel like sometimes, like, and I've never been on that side of the glass, I've never been, he's not in the courtroom. He is in the courtroom, but they divide the glass between, the criminal, I'll call him a criminal, mm-hmm. the criminal and everybody else. So Again, he's acting tough, like for that first like 20 minutes, and then finally, like, good. Like, not good that you're crying, like you should feel bad, but good. Like, I was waiting to see the human part in you.
Yeah.
Like that confirms everything that I'm doing in the way that I'm acting, and that is exactly the way that I would have expected something like that to go, without going into it with any expectation. So, again, afterwards we get out, and his family, wild enough, you never see this happen. Again, it was an out of body experience. They lined up and they all come and talk to me. So I think an aunt came up first, and sometimes people try to plea, maybe it try to makes them feel better to like talk about their love for the kid, but I wasn't trying to hear a lot of it. Thank you, try to gracefully handle it. And then the first person I actually broke down with was the mom. I just gave her such a big hug because I love my mom, and again, I can't imagine if I was a mother and my son did something like that, what that would be like for me, So, yeah, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy shit.
What did they get to the bottom of? Like, what was the motive? He just
so even to this day, we have no motive. The judge even said before he got out, and the reason that he didn't have to explain the motive is because he pled guilty. He took a plea deal. Mm-hmm. That's how all that happened. So when you take a plea deal, you don't have to have a motive for anything. We thought that it could have been like gang related, and so literally right when I got out of the hospital, we just got out of town for a couple was it a couple months? It might have been like 1.5, 2 months. My grandparents have a place away from town, and so we kind of stayed up there until things kind of calmed down a little bit. But yeah, dude, no idea. Can you imagine? So my life pretty much got taken away in that moment, and we don't even know why. Just completely a random act.
Insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the rehab like?
Good
for
question.
Everything?
Good question. So again, I had to be in the hospital a lot. Couldn't eat, couldn't drink water. I couldn't leave until I had a bowel movement. How crazy is that? So everything had to heal up. You can't eat, you can't drink, but you have to have bowel movement. So the only time that I ever felt like any kind of like relief is when they were cleaning out my NG tube. I can kind of feel the water like run down the tube in the back of my throat. I'm like, this is nice. Physically, I just had to get up, walk around, like let the wounds heal a little bit more. Even when I got out of the hospital, thankfully my mom's a nurse, so she took care of a lot of this stuff. Mentally, this is like one of those situations, man, where it's never going to get old, like no matter what. I've kind of gotten, a good grip on knowing that. And then sometimes it comes in and out. Some things come back that I didn't know that were going to come back, right? I definitely have that. Do I have any forms of PTSD? I don't think so. Definitely into seeing a therapist. Like, that's one of my big goals. And working out as much as I can. Most of everything is healed up, which is cool. It's crazy, dude. It happened in January. I think my first day back in the gym. And me and my mom kind of pushed for it, was in March. So, yeah, right. I got back in there pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's going to be like a lifelong rehab, but in a healthy way. Like, I can always revisit this, and the more and more I talk about it, the more comfortable for me it gets. And just knowing that, no matter what you believe in universe-wise, there's a reason to be good. And as long as I can continue to do that, I think things will always work out in the best way that they could.
That is a great perspective, dude. And I would be saying that to anybody who would be sharing that, right. But in your case, let me emphasize how amazing it is to keep that perspective and maintain that perspective, especially even through this. Like, and you touched on this a little bit, but I mean, like, what is going through your mind on a day-to-day basis during those, like, before you're getting kind of back into the gym, before you can kind of set a foot forward into like, okay, now I can begin the process of getting back into kind of a normal life cycle.
Yeah.
But in that before time, like,
what was it like?
Did it just settle in for you where you were like, you know what, like, and I'm not asking like, when did you finally get pissed at him? Like, not that, but like, is there kind of a battle that you're going through day to day, week to week, where it's like, I don't know, that positive stuff I was saying yesterday, maybe that's fucking stupid.
Shit. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's funny that you say that because, again, that's another one of my perspectives is I'm always going to have to be faced with that decision. Like, and it's a reason why I kind of want to keep my scars exposed. Just if there's ever a time where I'm like walking around, I'm like, you know what, man, this fucking shit sucks. And that's probably just a normal human reaction to have because it does. Yeah. But we're always faced with that choice, and you can either let it consume you or you can turn it into a positive. And so I remember, it's funny, when the pandemic was like first like at its highest, and I'd lost my jobs and everything. Like, what do I do? My best friend Will, man, he's talking to me about mindfulness and meditation, and so I was always kind of something I wanted to get into, but it doesn't have to be all like spiritually if you don't want to get that deep into it, but it is the reality of just being present, right? Like just putting yourself in a present moment. Your mind races, but that's what the mind does. It is a thought. How about you be present, work on just breathing and being? And so when I was in the hospital, there was plenty of times, dude, where I woke up and didn't feel real. I woke up and I got all these tubes coming at me, and I can just look down and immediately start to feel myself panicking, right? Rooms closing in, and then all I can remember doing is just giving myself 5 seconds and be like, Jordan, let's just get through these 5 seconds. Breathe. Like, okay, we got through those 5 seconds. Let's get to the next 5 seconds. And I can kind of look around a little bit and bring myself back. It was a lot of that. And again, man, it's funny because I feel like my entire life, the decisions I made and the kind of the way I tried to be as Jordan prepared me for that moment. So I don't want to say that it wasn't difficult, because it was, but I think it made it easier for me to have tools around me to be able to use. Again, dude, I was in the hospital by myself. None of my family was there. They could only sit on the outside of the hospital and like, talk to me through the iPhone. That's what made me an Apple person. It was FaceTime, man. That's a game changer. But yeah, man, I mean, that you're faced with that decision every day, and everybody's faced with that decision. Sometimes it's hard. You hear people talk and they complain, what you should be able to do. You shouldn't be able to keep stuff in, but you think about it, I'm like, man, you know what? And it sucks. Sometimes it almost feel bad for saying this to people, but I'm like, it could be worse. It just could be worse. Even for me, it just could be so much worse. And I think a lot of people don't want to hear that because they want to feel that. And it's okay. Just like I felt the pain when I was feeling it, you know what I mean? But you can't stay in that moment. You got to move on. You have to find a way to move on. And so again, it's a cloud that's going to follow me forever, but I know it's raining. I got my umbrella ready whenever it comes out. So
Yep.
That's all good.
Well, I think that stuff's hard for people to hear sometimes because it can easily feel like their feelings are being downplayed.
Exactly.
And it's hard to have that separation of emotion of like that's something I feel like is talked about on the show all the time, and something that I have tried to mold within myself for the last handful of years, is understanding like your reaction to something is what is either going to make it worse or just understand what it is, or not as bad, whatever it is. But it's hard to hear those things. It's nobody wants to be told like when something's bad and they're like, man, this sucks. Nobody wants to hear somebody say, well, it's not that bad.
Right.
But it's never coming from that place though. It's always like, all right, let's be present with this moment. Like, let's understand, yes, let's talk for the next 3 hours about how shitty this is.
Right.
But the end of this conversation needs to be in the form of resolution.
Exactly, man. It's literally like, yes, feel it. That's exactly what it's supposed to feel like. You shouldn't be. I think I read something or like heard it from a Buddhist that it's like you should be able to laugh, you should be able to cry, you should be able to have all these emotions in one day, every single day. That is just the human experience, and it just makes you more one with everything. Again, it doesn't have to be as spiritual as that, but again, your mind could race. You could easily start with something like, man, fucking traffic sucks, and then you could immediately start just going off into a tangent. Then you're all the way over here for no reason at all.
It's a domino effect.
It's a domino effect.
Because then if you have bad traffic on your way to work, then you're a dickhead to somebody at work, and that ruins their day.
It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, which you don't want to do. And it'll happen, right? I have my bad days just like everybody else, but like you said, you take that, you put that one moment in a vacuum, and then you have to build off of it. Recognize what that is. That way, when you come back to it, you can see it, get through it, and then you'll be better after, and you'll feel better after for it.
So I'm assuming, when you're walking away from this, like, when does it settle in? And I'm not like trying to put words in your mouth.
No,
I'm more so asking, like, does it give you a new perspective, a fresh perspective on life?
Sure.
After you get
through this? Man, 100%. And hopefully not to a fault. Sometimes it's better just to not do anything at all and be okay with just not doing anything. I feel like sometimes I'm like, man, I'm feeling really good, I got a new lease on life. Like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. I want to put my energy into this podcast. I want to put my energy into personal training. I want to put my energy into working out. I want to put my energy into this. And that is all good. And that makes me feel good, right? But then sometimes I lose track of beautiful things around me. Like, I'm so consumed and stressed out about doing something instead of just sitting back. You're like, you know what, man? It's a really nice fucking day outside. Let me just enjoy this for a second. Let me take some time, be present. That way I can kind of focus on what the next move is. So absolutely, dude. Perspective for sure. Made me love everybody around me even more. Again, I've always been kind of a positive guy in general, and that just reinforced it. Also big superhero fan, man. And man, somebody tell me I don't have a superpower. I don't want to find out any more superpowers that I have, but that
Yeah.
I'm good finding that out.
You're like,
man.
I don't need any more origin story.
Yeah,
of
no
like,
more.
I'm good. I feel good right now.
Yeah,
Like, I don't need
that's
something
good.
crazy.
Right.
No, but that's awesome, though, that the perspective is more about being thankful for simply existing
Yeah.
rather than being so concerned with, I'm alive. That means I have to do
something.
because in a way, like, I wonder if that idea almost comes from, like, you feel like you now owe something to the fact that you're still alive. Like, did I explain
Dude,
that right?
yeah,
Like, I feel like when you survive something like that, like, and that's not necessarily a
it's
bad
not.
thing. It's
You're
just
right.
almost you can put more pressure on yourself
Right.
to make use of the fact that you're alive, which
Exactly.
again is so silly to say almost in a slightly bad
No,
connotation.
but
That's a great thing.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, honestly. It is, sometimes I get myself into those moments, like now I have to do something, you know what I mean? Or I'm missing out on it. And I don't know if that's necessarily the point of me being here anyway. But you're right, dude. But I feel like that's like that with everybody right now, right? Like any kind of second chance you get, you don't even have to be a second chance, you know? You're like, I need to make the most of this. And yeah, you find yourself putting pressure on it. And then again, you kind of lose out on the whole fact of being appreciative in the first place. So
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Okay, so where does this like mindset even come from? I mean,
man.
because yes, we can sit and talk about, hey, you know, I mean, near death. I mean, you were
Right.
dead for a
Right.
little bit,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, you know, you have this near death experience. Of course, that can change some
Sure,
perspective,
sure.
right? But I mean, you just said you've kind of always been a positive person. I can kind of tell there's something kind of ingrained in you anyway that's
Yeah.
even allowing you to have these tools in the tool belt to kind of pick and choose from when
yeah.
the moment's needed. Where's that come from? Is that ingrained from like growing up, family? Like, what's that like?
I definitely attribute it a lot to family and friends, just kind of like that basis of just maybe just good relationships, right? I got a lot of loved ones, which is really, really cool. It's really cool to make sure you're loved. I mean, that's for anybody out there, right? Working in the hospital was another big eye opener. You see some people, man, and they be going through some stuff. You see people who are actually going through stuff, and the people that are probably in the worst pain are some of the nicest people. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
okay.
I remember talking to a patient, and poor guy, like he was in there for, I think he had like stage 4 cancer, and it was like in his liver, and unfortunately, like it was to the point where they couldn't find a suitable donor for him. So, you know, as far as I know, like he was just getting ready to get the news for hospice. Like, we can't do anything for you. Dude, we sat there and we talked about like how he got to play like a quarter of basketball, like in high school, coming off the JV. You know what I mean? Like, man, if that doesn't put things in perspective for you. Before that, I actually worked, my buddy I was telling you that works over here at Land Grant. His name's Gordy, and another friend of mine, Justin. When I came to Columbus transferring schools, I worked at this outpatient clinic called the Neuro Recovery Network. Really cool place, man. I wanted to become a physical therapist at the time. And what they did, it was part of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. Remember I told you I'm a superhero fan? That's Superman. And so what happened to him is he fell off a horse. He ended up like getting a spinal cord injury. It was really bad. He dedicated that foundation into finding research to help people pretty much try to get to as close to pre-injury as they can. So what they would do is, have you ever been rock climbing before?
I haven't actually. I want to.
Dude, you
but,
should. You
yeah.
should. I hear there's some pretty cool places around Columbus too. But they get you in like a harness, and they put you on a treadmill, and they strap you in. Let's just say you're a person who has a spinal cord injury and you're paralyzed, right? And so there's a team of us, and we help you walk. It's called Locomotor Training, and there's simple like cues that you get to end up initiating where your gait is, and so we're recreating that for them, hopefully to try to wake up some of these cells that have been, you know, destroyed. I've definitely seen some people take their first steps again, not like on their own, but maybe in some kind of device. And then, dude, there's this one guy, one of my favorite people that worked with me there, 5 days a week. He'd travel 2 hours down, be there on time there. 2 hours that you have to sit in a car, and any kind of quadriplegic can tell you that is not comfortable. Even if you feel like you can't feel, like, I don't know if you ever had like any numb like feeling before. Like, so right here, I can't feel any of this. Just imagine like having like pins and needles down your entire legs, all the way down to your feet forever, right? And this is a time where I'm fully healthy. So that was another thing that kind of put things into perspective for me. And then again, like, dude, there's, it's funny. I can remember myself like going through so many like stupid, like shitty situations. Like, man, that's just terrible. But you know what? We're here. We're here. I think a lot of that, man, a lot of perseverance, CrossFit, man. And not just, I don't necessarily want to tote the brand, but maybe just that form of exercise and putting yourself in a position to where you have to try and trust yourself. You've probably done plenty of squat cleans in your life, right? And those are some scary movements, especially like if you're not technically savvy. But you got to trust yourself, see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it's totally cool. At least you gave it a shot. And so I think learning about all that stuff, doing that fitness journey that I was going on, and then even the pandemic leading up, one of the things, again, I found out is like people are so hard on themselves. So hard on themselves. Like in the sense of like, if you don't make it, you're a failure. Nah, man. Actually, it's probably okay to fail. That way you can figure out what's working and what's not, and then you can try again. Or like, if you do fail, it's okay. Like, you know what? That's self-love. You gave it a shot. You tried your hardest. But I think when you're in positions like that, it's so hard to see that, because there's either somebody around you that you're building a standard up, or you have a certain set of expectations that you're trying to go for. And when those things that happen that you expected that weren't going to happen, or vice versa, you're down on yourself. And I think a lot of that I've seen through a lot of people throughout my life. And I think just learning about that and just recognizing for what that is, and just learning to love myself, not love myself like becoming some kind of like self-centered, prick. I mean, there's people out there, if that works for them, that works for them. But I think that helps me like love other people too. And I think just the fact that I like talking to people, I love having great conversations. I will try to get into that uncomfortable, awkward situation just so that I can feel human with somebody else, because I know that's an awkward situation with somebody else. I mean, dude, the gym setting, honestly, in my mind is one of the perfect places for that. A lot of people probably have some sort of anxiety being in a gym, and not knowing like what to even do when they get in there. But then like if there's somebody next to them who may look completely different or like intimidated to them, it might be a scary thing to just go up and talk to this person, because you're probably expecting an awkward moment, and you want to avoid it. But I feel like when it comes to like tough situations like that, for me, I feel like it's better to just lean in head first, that way you come out, you're like, that wasn't so bad. That wasn't so bad. And so, dude, like I said, I feel like it's worked well for me all the way until now, till like we're talking to each other, right?
Dude, I have to say, like, gym conversations have become some of my favorite moments.
They're cool, right?
Like,
yeah.
it has been one of my favorite things. Like, and saying that, it's not like walking up like, how much do you live? Like,
right.
Those aren't the gym
Dude,
conversations.
It's funny. I was getting ready to come in here and be goofy like that, and I was like, hey, what's your deadlift, bro? What's your
Right.
squat clean? But yeah, exactly. You're so right.
Yeah, it's more about, like, what's bringing you in? Like, what's, like, at least, those are a lot of the questions that I asked.
Right.
Like, I've kind of become, like, whenever I can, at the CrossFit gym,
Sure.
CrossFit Hannah, like, I've tried to kind of almost become the de facto door guy.
Sure.
Where, like, if I'm not in the middle of something and I see that there's somebody new coming in for a class or somebody new coming to check out, like, if I'm available or somebody else isn't, I like being that person who's now going up to them and just be like, hey, what's up? Like, welcome in. Like, not getting in sales mode,
Sure.
just like, I know that you feel uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Whether you're excited to be here or not, you're still nervous
Right.
about something. So, hey, cool. Let me be somebody who introduces myself to you.
Better.
Let me make you feel at least a little bit more comfortable. And like, it's been so cool to like hear the result or see the result of that, where like there's been a few people that have come in. I've been kind of the first person to kind of talk to them, and I'm not like, oh, the gym's so great, it's amazing.
Right, come join this.
I'm talking to them about them.
Exactly.
So, hey, like, what's bringing you in? Like, have you ever done this before? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm also making sure that they know everybody in here isn't some crazy, insane gym rat that they should be intimidated by. Because I've only been doing CrossFit for a year. Mm-hmm. It's actually officially been a year in the last week.
Congrats, man. That's big.
So, like, that's one of the first things I lead with,
Sure.
right? Is like, I, like, make sure that they understand, like, we're on similar levels here.
Right.
Right? Just because I've been here longer and I understand what we're doing and you might not, doesn't make us any different. You know? So I
Right.
always make sure to share my story of, like, yeah, when I first came in here, I had no idea what I was doing. I was really intimidated, but I was up for the challenge. I was excited. You know, the first week or two that I came in here, I almost threw up
Fucking
every
nuts.
single time.
Yep,
Like,
fucking nuts.
So I'm like, I'm sharing all these things, one, to also get them a little prepared
Sure.
of like, hey, there's going to be some challenges, but also saying, but you can face them.
Right.
And this is how. And there's modifications to workouts.
Right.
And that's getting really technical.
Right.
But like, you know what I mean? Like kind of diving into the specifics, but also giving them kind of the blanket explanation of like, hey, we've all started.
Yeah.
I started, and let me excitedly welcome you into this place. And the point that I was trying to make before I trailed off is like, there's been a few people that I've done that for who have stuck around at the gym and have later told me like, dude, you talking to me on the first day that I was in here made me so comfortable.
That's so cool.
And again, it's
That means
not about
everything.
it's not about trying to like sell them
Yeah,
on
you're
a
not trying to
membership to the
sell,
gym.
right.
Like, dude, I don't care about
Right.
that. I want you to feel comfortable being in this what I know to be an uncomfortable situation.
Exactly.
Because I love connecting with people. I love talking to people.
Right.
Obviously, I have a podcast
Exactly.
to do that with.
Exactly.
Right? I love getting to know people. And while, yes, I'm not going to sit there and talk to the new person at the gym for 2 hours.
Right.
I
Still.
want enough of that conversation of like, well, let's actually get to know each other. I don't want to just jump into like, well, the membership's here, X amount of dollars, and you can come in, you know.
And I think the cool thing is, like, again, you, like you said, you were in that same position, just like I know I was in that same position. And it's, in my mind, like, if it's one of those pillars of fitness, it's the sense of community. That's that same sense of community when I walk into FitOne. I'm so excited to get there every day. One, it's because I get to rollerblade back and forth to work. That's how close I am to there.
That's sick.
Yeah. Then either every time I'm walking in, I'm walking to the office, catching all the coaches, love seeing their faces, and then I'm walking out to the gym. Same thing every time. It's like, man, okay, I see all these people. I know all these people. I can't wait to talk to people. Man, this is new thing that I've been doing. Like if I'm training, I'm a big anime guy, so nerdy. So I'll look around, and I'm so surprised to find that like there's people that will be walking on the treadmill, and they'll have some anime on. And so I'm like, I got to go run over and talk to this guy and see what he's watching. And made so many friends just doing that. I mean, you're so right. I think a little 2-second, maybe 10-second conversation that could build into maybe a 5-minute conversation goes a long way for a lot of people. And it sucks that more people aren't having that. So
Do you think that gyms are like the stigma of gyms is actually more incorrect than it is correct? Do you think it's 50-50?
dude,
Like,
okay, I'll say this. So, or I'll ask this to you. So besides CrossFit Hannah, how many other CrossFit gyms have you been to?
Not one.
So that would be a really great test to see, man. I you know, again, I'm trying to see different CrossFit gyms too. I definitely want to stop and get Hannah, but like we should go around and then see like what vibes you're getting from each gym. Now, it won't be fair to give a vibe off your first day, not all, you know, but to your point, I think that there is a big stigma for that. The sad thing is, I think that stigma is so it's like a virus, dude. Like everybody, like a lot of people are just intimidated to come into a gym. And again, like I was saying before, it's not just the fact that there's intimidating people around. It's just probably nobody knows what to even do, you know? Like you go in, you're like, okay, there's dumbbells over there. I think I picked this thing up and I think I lift it this way. Or, you know, I saw on YouTube this guy was doing this. But yeah, it totally is, man. It depends on the gym. There's probably some gyms around there that are super like Globo Jimmy, right?
Probably,
like,
yeah.
But you go to a good place and you find good people, then you have your community. It just starts there. Like if like you said, like if somebody's having a conversation just to you and not about the gym around you, that makes you feel so much more comfortable getting into uncomfortable things. Just like you said, like, dude, if there's somebody coming in, I try to do the same thing. If there was somebody coming in a CrossFit gym when I was there, I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know, just because, like you said, prepare them because it's going to be a tough workout. Everybody's going to be suffering. I don't care like how strong you are. It's going to be shitty. And then try to figure out more about them because that's just going to make them feel so much better. And then again, you're paying it forward. Somebody else is going to be doing the same thing. And like you said, there's no incentive for you to do that at all. You're just trying to make these people feel good about themselves. Yeah, huge stigma. I hope that like FitOneFour, guys, come check it out. New Albany, head over. We'll show you how to feel good. You can come in. It'll be just like home. Seriously. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that I think it's so important is like, And again, I mean, starting a fitness journey is not the easiest thing.
Right.
You know, once you kind of open the door, it can actually become a lot easier than what you think it is. But that first
step,
opening the door in general is very difficult, right?
Right.
The first single step is like the biggest one of any journey usually. And like, I think that obviously is the thing that prevents a lot of people from doing that. And I think the stigma of gyms, for sure, just like you said, there's a lot of like the Globo gyms, like the big box, the bro gyms. That's just
that's
whatever.
what it is.
Like it's that there are those people. You
Right.
know, you can find those fitness accounts everywhere on
Sure,
Instagram.
I'm about to
and
say
everything.
social media is such a big
Social's going to paint that way different picture of like, well, that person's not necessarily the person you're going to be working out next to. That person's wanting to be an influencer in the fitness world.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're playing a bit of a weird character that's probably not the coolest of person.
Right.
Those aren't always the people you're going to run into.
Exactly.
But I think that stigma often comes from that fear. It doesn't always come from something you experienced even. And that's not to say that people have never went to a gym and
Right.
experienced a bad thing. But like, I think that the thing that builds up the wall the most is that stigma of, I'm going to go in, everybody's going to be judging me, everybody's going to, everyone's probably going to be a dickhead, a bro, tossing around weight, and if I can't, then I, blah, blah, blah. And of course, like, those are normal fears to have.
Right.
I'm not going to sit and be like, I've been going to the gym for a year, so no one should be afraid to go ever.
Exactly.
Like,
That's
no.
no.
Like,
It's totally a normal thing.
If I changed gyms and I was going to a new one, I'd probably mentally reset it near zero.
Exactly.
Even though I can walk in and I know what I'm doing, I've cool. Once we get into the thing, I know I can do the thing. But it's less for me, and I think the mindset or the perspective maybe going in for a lot of people should be like less about like physically what you're doing and more so kind of just what's the environment
What's
like?
the environment?
Can you find a gym that works for you?
Exactly.
Not necessarily like can you lift the most weights? Can
Right.
you get the best workout partner? Whatever it is.
Right.
It's like that I think is some of the work is maybe you got to try, and that sounds annoying, I know, but like maybe you got to try out a couple different gyms.
I 100% agree.
You don't always get lucky. Like for me, I went to CrossFit Gehanna because a friend that I've had for years goes there. I knew he went there.
Right.
And like I knew that he had become like a coach there and all that sort of stuff. So I had that bridge in.
Right.
And I knew consciously, okay, I'm going to use that person as my comfort bridge.
Exactly.
So I don't have to walk in
And do the...
and hey, I have no idea. Like, it would have been more terrifying. Would I have went? I honestly don't know.
Right.
But it's like taking advantage of that, you know what I mean? Like being there of like, okay, cool. It's still going to be difficult.
Right.
I'm still going to be, fish out of water. I'm not going to know what I'm doing.
Right.
But I really know that I want to get in the gym.
I was about to say,
And so it's like, okay, I've got that driving force and I'm knocking on the door a lot. So, all right, cool. This person just happens to be helping me open the door.
Walk right in. Dude, same thing. Almost like carbon copy. Like, I just moved back from Bowling Green, kind of just lost my touch with, working out, and my buddy Will. He got into CrossFit. He's always kind of like into like the not the next thing, but he's really passionate about what he gets into. And it took me a while. And like you said, there's that fear aspect there. And even more to your point, it's like people have to be okay sometimes with being vulnerable. Like that is just a vulnerable position to be in. Yeah, you're getting ready to go in there. Not only are you going to be a person in a place where you don't know anybody and you have to create that around you, you're going to be sweating. You're going to be stinking. Like that talk about like setting yourself up for judgment. That is a scary thing to do. And you would have to hope that the right people are around you to make you feel better about that. And then at the same time, if not, like you said, it might take more than one situation to be able to put yourself in. But like you said again, finding your why. Like why, like what got you, like you had your friend there, but what really got you going into fitness in the first place?
Mm-hmm. It was that drive. It was,
right.
It's the like, oh, what's the phrasing? It's like when the idea of staying the same is way more uncomfortable than the struggle of changing.
Yep.
Like that's what it was for me.
Sure.
It's like I was sitting for years and I was super unhappy with how I felt, how I looked. I knew it. I could identify it. But there was that, like, I don't know where my entry point is. I don't know how to get started. I don't know. I mean, I literally would think about going and joining a gym every day. Like, literally nearly every day. I'm like, oh, maybe I should go here. Maybe I should go there. But I also I knew myself enough that I knew that the discipline I needed to form for a gym routine, I knew I needed some training wheels put on my bike from someone else.
Right.
I knew I needed a coach. I
Right.
knew I needed a trainer. I knew I needed to go through that struggle alongside other people
Sure.
because I knew I wasn't disciplined enough to like kick it into gear and go to a Planet Fitness
Right.
at 7 a.m. every day by myself
Sure.
and just YouTube some workouts or something. I knew that that wasn't going to work for me.
Right.
So I think that's another layer of like starting some sort of fitness journey is like, you got to do a little bit of self-reflection.
It's
Like,
so true.
it's not just, oh, I need to go lift some weights or run on a treadmill or,
Right.
or eat better or whatever. It's not just those things.
Right.
It's how can I adjust the framework of my mind
You said it.
to be open to those things? Like, what is it that I actually need?
Dude, it's-
because you might be able to go, like, again, some people for
do
sure
it, yes,
can
and
just
rather
go
drive.
in, they can just wake up at 7 a.m. tomorrow and be like, I'm going to the
going.
gym and
Right.
I'm never going to look back.
Right.
Other people are like, no,
No.
I can't do it without a class or without a guiding force or
Right.
whatever. That was me. It's like,
Right.
oh, a place like CrossFit Ghana has just literal classes
Right.
that I can go into and I'm training under one of my friends and okay, great. Now I'm in this group environment. There's a
Sure.
group, a shared struggle that's only going to bring us all together, closer together.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, great. Now I know what I'm entering
Next
into,
steps. Right.
and the next steps begin.
Dude, I resonate with that a lot. And it's funny, like personal training has given me such fulfillment out of that when I'm talking to people and like getting to know them a little bit better and kind of getting deep with them. And it does. It starts with like that uncomfortable but honest conversation that you have to have with yourself. And whether it is like you seeing it in the mirror, like the way your clothes fit or like how you're feeling, it's going to take some scary times and it's going to take that extra step or maybe a guiding force. I know I enjoyed, that's what kept me going. Like when I was, really big and make sure I'm joining classes, I knew that Will was going to be there. So I'm like, heck yeah, my buddy's going to be there. I'm going to go work out. And then it got me into like seeing even more people like, okay, this person's working out. The same thing like when I'm going to FitOneFour, man, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in here. I know I'm going to see the usual suspects. It's going to be a good day. Like I'm going to, go for that. It's true. Like everybody's different. Like, and, we obviously CrossFit fans, not everybody has to do CrossFit. It might not be for everybody. You know what I mean? Just like I was coaching at Orange Theory today too. Like there's some people who are really about it. Some people I'm like, maybe this isn't for you. You're right though. It's like figuring out the why. And then just, working out doesn't have to be such a chore all the time. You don't even have to be in the gym to work out. Like I said, I'm on my rollerblades. That's a perfect way to get a good workout in. Or I see people on bikes. Or you really have to find it. But like you said, it takes some testing out to do. Like it's going to take just like thinking about good times and bad times. You're going to have days where you don't want to fucking do it. You don't want to fucking do it.
Right.
And you'll feel, like you said, you'll feel a lot more accomplished once you do to it. Once you do go through some sort of change, you'll feel better about yourself on the other end of it for sure. Like almost every single time.
So speaking of the why,
Sure.
let's dive into like how you even got involved in the fitness world to begin with. How do you become a personal trainer? Like, let's trace that back. Where does that even begin?
Sure. It really started back in college. I was at Bowling Green at the time. Again, I wanted to be a physical therapist. Dude, I wanted to do so much stuff. I'm sure you get that. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this.
That's me just right now in
Yeah,
general.
exactly. And so I think in college it's even like to like an exponential amount being younger and then your eyes being open. You're put in this new environment where you can kind of do anything that kind of put you. So I was playing football at first, ended up stopping after my rest of freshman year. Just wasn't in love with it like I thought I was going to be. A lot more work that I just was not ready to put in. But after that, ended up kind of learning more about kinesiology and anatomy. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is really cool. We even got to take like workout classes, which was cool. Got, like kind of showing you like what it was like in the gym. And after that, I had moved back to Columbus and was there for a little bit. And one of my buddies was personal training at the time. And he was doing these group fitness classes over at Hoover Dam, which was really cool. I'm like, man, this is cool. Getting the energy up, like trying to motivate people. That's fun. Like if I can just get amped with you, I'm kind of I would like to pride myself on being the personal trainer that's not going to just yell at you like, another rep. I'm more like, we're on this train together. Like you got one more, let's do it. And then be so excited for you when you get that rep because I know how hard it was to really focus and concentrate. And so we do that probably like Tuesdays and Thursdays. He kind of like got me in a little bit more. I picked up like one or two clients, super like low key. And then I ended up moving away. And so when I was in San Diego, it's funny because I was trying to act at the time. I was doing like community theater and a really, really sweet couple. They needed somebody to watch the dog. And I went over, watched the dog when they left. They paid me a pretty good amount of money. And, they kept asking me to come back over. It's this really, really nice lady. She she's like in her like late 70s. She was like, can you come personal train me? I was like, yeah, I'll come train you. You just want me to show you how to. She's like, yeah, I do these workouts and like I picked this workout. Can you just help me through it? Sure. And so I'm like doing it and I'm like, man, I'm really starting to like this. And just even myself, like something that I loved about football was the workouts. Honestly, the summer workouts, they were tough, man, but I loved running fast. I loved like feeling strong. And so like getting back into that definitely like played into me. Like I want to give this off to somebody else, you know? Um, kind of show them like my passion for it. Maybe they won't get the same passion for it, but even if it's motivation enough for them to work out every day, then that's good. Not even every day, but just to work out, to see the importance in it. And again, one of those other things was going to the gym with Will. Like he showed me CrossFit. Like this was a whole new thing to me. Like functional movements that I could do. I can do cleans. I can do a snatch. What even is a snatch? I don't know, but can you show me how? And then you add in like the gymnastics aspect. I love handstand walking. I love doing bar muscle ups. Like I love that. Like I love the way my body feels when I put it under that certain amount of stress. So I'm like, man, I can be able to pass this off to somebody else. I am big on like learning though. It's crazy. You might find some people and they're really good personal trainers, but have like no certifications or anything, which is okay. Obviously, like they gotta, you know, they're good at their job. And so me, I was like, man, let me just learn a little bit more. Let me just, you know, maybe that could be some self-doubt in there too. Like, it's funny, even working on something, you think you want to know everything, and then when you're, let's just say you're in sales, right, and you're trying to sell a product. Like, let's just say I'm trying to sell you this water bottle right here. I need to make you like that water bottle. I need to get you reasons to like this water bottle. But I feel like sometimes I'm going to tell you how that water bottle's made up. Probably stuff that you really don't want to hear about the water bottle just because I know it. And I think that being one of my struggles when I was going through this whole personal training thing was that instead of like you said, finding out who this person is, finding out what their goals are, and then just feeding off of that. And so once I got that concept down, I was like, I really like this. This is really cool. And so that had been like within the last like maybe 5 or 6 years. And then coming back, dude, let me tell you about freaking Ryan, man. I go to FitOneFour because my girlfriend lives right there. Like where the gym is, like literally right behind the gym is where she lives. So it's right up the street, and I couldn't get in the door, and I'm pretty sure it was Nathan that opened up the door first. And I was just walking through, showing me around the gym, and then I saw the CrossFit rigs in the back, and I was like, oh, this is where I need to be. And so I went and worked out a day, and then I came back because obviously you can come back after your first day or whatever. And then I met Ryan. And so Ryan, you know, I didn't even know he was the owner at the time, really. And so I'm just having a really candid conversation with him. He's like, you seem like a pretty good, cool dude. Let me just sign you up right here. Boom, boom, boom. Get my fob. And so I keep coming back in, like training or whatever. And then one day Ryan comes over to me and he shows me the app that he's working on. And again, like there's something like contagious about that kind of personality that I'm just drawn to, and you can clearly see like all the people that he's drawn to. And he was telling me about personal training, and he's like, would this be something you were interested in? And dude, when was this? This had been like in March, and I was like, yeah, you know, I had a couple clients out in San Diego, and I was coaching. I had a couple like work friends that I would train, and I did like it a lot. And he was like, why don't you try it out here? And I literally, at that point, I just started working at Orange Theory, and I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, this seems like Orange Theory is a good gig. You know, I'm getting paid pretty well to be there. The people are cool and everything, but it just didn't fulfill me like personal training has so far. And like all my clients, man, I love talking to them. Like, most of the time, and hopefully if they're watching this, they don't take this to offense because I consider myself a nerd too. We're just nerding out on everything, man. I think the cool thing about having conversations with people is trying to connect. And I think personal training gives me that connection while giving them something back. Like, here's your health. The most important thing that you could potentially or possibly have in your entire life is your health. Nothing's more important than that. You can make all the money in the world. If you're not healthy and you can't get out of bed, what is that money worth to you? So, yeah, dude, the personal training thing has been something that I've enjoyed. It's something I will continue to enjoy. Hopefully I can use that as a vessel too. One of my big goals in these next couple of years is to be a nurse. So I was going to nursing school right when I came back. Dude, you want to talk about like just doing a whole bunch of crazy things. As soon as I got out of the hospital, dude, I'm back working out in the gym. Like, I'm like, I want to do this, this, and this. I end up like applying to go to nursing school at Xavier. They have like a accelerated program. I was like, let me just knock this out. I've been talking about wanting to nurse, and so, let me just do this. And so I did all my prerequisites for it. And then again, I'm talking around about personal training and everything. I'm like, you know what? I've been just doing a lot of stuff instead of just slowing down and just putting my energy into this one thing and seeing what comes out of it. And dude, it's been so nice. It really has. Scary, sure, but why wouldn't it be scary? That's a good thing to have, They say pressure builds diamonds, and not that there has to be so much pressure where I can't do anything or I break down, but maybe I should start betting on myself a little bit more, So yeah.
Okay, so you joined FitOneFour pretty casually then.
Yeah, casual
really
member.
casual.
Oh yeah. Just came in, just looking for a good workout, and I fell in love with the way the place was and how open it was. I feel like I'm one of those guys that likes to have space, and that's all I saw. I was like, oh yeah, this is a playground for me.
And so you're doing that. You're currently going to nursing school, right?
I just finished my last prerequisite class back in May. That was my physiology class. The shitty part about that, dude, like I thought I was going to be like, I took a lot of these classes before, but since I've been out of college for so long, that there's like a mark, like I think a 7-year mark where you have to take all those classes. They drop off. Dude, so I had to take, I'm thinking like, man, anatomy, I've taken anatomy like 4 different times. Like how much has the human body changed in the past 7 years? Why do I have to take this again?
Right.
But yeah, so I told myself I was going to take a break. So as soon as I got done with school, which I just finished, like I said, back in May, been taking this break since then. Just been personal training.
So would you personal train and be a nurse same time? Like try to kind of layer those things up?
Dude, if it worked out that way, absolutely. Again, that's in the future, so trying to focus more on personal training right now. But a vision for myself is to see myself personal training. The cool thing about nursing is you have those like 3 12-hour shifts, which I was doing as a nurse assistant.
Yeah.
Working nights, and sometimes it lines up to where you get like 8 days off. It'd be great to have a client or two. Or, I think the cool thing I like about FitOneFour is it's a place where just everybody can just come. Just come on in. Like if I could have a place like that for myself, like, dude, here's a key fob, come on in, come work out.
I know FitOneFour is definitely that kind of like almost like land of opportunity that you can create for yourself sort of thing. It's not like a structured, like you are an employee, you will work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's like, I don't know, you're either going to have clients or you're not. It's totally up to you, dude, but you can have them here if you want.
Exactly. And I think it's a really cool system that he has set up. And it doesn't ever feel like I'm like in this box. And it's true. Like, I think that's the kind of minds you want around you. Like, those are the minds that'll help grow, Everybody's trying to grow there. And I think that's an important thing. It's helped me out a lot, for sure.
So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I kind of want to circle back around to it because I feel like we sort of trailed off into a bunch of side quests. Like growing up, like was like being an athlete always a part of your life growing up?
Sure.
And was a lot of that like maybe where some of this mindset stuff formed? Because I know we talked about kind of like adult year, like, hey, I've got friends and family around me, but like, was it that friends and family helping you shape that as a child?
Yeah,
even? Like,
it's funny you say that because like there's times where I can sit back. I try not to regret things, but like so I played football for a really long time, like as a kid, like growing up, and I got my brothers who I played football with, and I ran track in high school and enjoyed those things. I think track I loved football, but I enjoyed the socialization of track, right? And I think just the mindset of just running as fast as you can is one of the coolest things. And being a part of a team is what I really like too. Relays were my favorite thing. But then you kind of like break it down even more, and it's a matter of concentration. So one thing that I wish that I could have honed in a little bit more when I was playing football is the concentration. I think I was so worried about messing up that kind of like hindered the potential that I could have had. And sometimes I find that in some of the fitness I do today, I'm really, really concentrated on what I'm doing in the moment. Other things that have shaped me too is just trying new things, man. Like football player for a really long time, track runner for a really long time, basketball player for a really long time. My dad and I got into bowling my junior year in high school, and I fell in love with that. I can't wait. Like, I will be the one to bring my bowling balls and my shoes to the bowling alley. Call me a nerd, I don't care. And even worse, like, I won't go bowl at, like, Star Lanes. Have you ever been to Star Lanes?
I have been, yeah.
Okay, so those lanes, I mean, they might, like, work on their oil lanes, but they're probably really dry. It's not, like, for bowling. You know what I mean?
Okay.
No, you get me to a bowling alley where it smells like beer, maybe some cigarette smoke in the back, and that I know I'm in a good
true
place.
Bowling alley.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also am really big into like that aspect. So like nothing sounds better than just rolling a ball down the lane and like seeing the pins fall down, and then you're being around people. So again, it's just that aspect. But it wasn't always. It's funny. Like I don't think my like journey to fitness is just based off of the sports I played. So I think it's just kind of like how it branded me, who I am. Like there was a time like when I got done with football and I put on a lot of weight. And I, like you said, I just wanted to change. I wanted something different. I knew that this couldn't keep happening. Like I was like, I got to make a change, and I'm gonna have to work at this. And it was a day by day thing. And sure enough, ended up dropping like, I think the biggest weight drop I had was like 40 pounds. So it was nice, you know. Did I get that from the sports I played? Not sure. But again, I think my biggest passion is just the way my body moves and like understanding that that's what's going on. I think I really, really enjoy doing that for sure. Anything else could have just came across it. I mean, it's funny. I think you see some people like find their success out of nowhere. Not like they didn't work for it, but maybe they were doing one thing and then they turned a direction and then things just took off for them. So I feel like I'm one of those people, just like you said, I'm a side quester. Like I know what the main storyline is. There's a game I'm playing right now, Elden Ring. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Deep game from software. They're great video game makers. So like there's this main path you can follow, but I'm 100 and some hours into this game and I'm over here and I'm over here. Why? Because I just enjoy doing that. So yeah, man.
Well, that's even why I asked, that question of like, because it's always interesting to me to find out kind of where that driving force comes from.
Sure.
Of, okay, well, why do you like doing so many things? And yes, the mindset conversation is one thing, but the other part of like, well, okay, you're about to layer, nursing and being a personal trainer and, doing these things
Sure.
and figuring all those things out, like the side questing, right? Like that's always interesting to me when people, I don't know, want to take those things on, and it's like, okay, what makes you that way? Is it just the excitement of the challenges? Is it
That's a good question.
wanting to be busy? Is it wanting to just, because like for me, I don't know if I could give a direct answer in that, but like for me, it's always kind of come down to like, I just know I enjoy it.
It's true.
I just know that I enjoy having an interesting enough life to where if I don't feel like doing this today or I can't, I've got this option, and that option.
It's so true.
Too. Like, and that's fun.
The jack of all trades, really. Back to your point, one of the biggest things, and I'm glad you reiterated that, is because I think the biggest thing is no matter what I'm doing, I'm always trying to help. Like I feel like there's a sense of altruism there. Like if there's any way I can help, that's what I want to do. If I can make your day a millimeter or a millisecond better, then I've done my job. Then that is the biggest thing. It could be anything. It really could, dude. Man, there was a couple times where there was a situation where I probably shouldn't have been in, but I did it because I knew I needed to help. On the serious note, so it was late. I was just getting back from a trip, and it was in San Diego. And I remember like I need to get a burrito. I'm hungry, and so I'm at an intersection, right? And there's a truck in front of me. The light turns green. The truck doesn't move, and I'm like, okay, like that's weird. Like I'm gonna honk my horn. Truck's still not moving, and so I throw my hazards on. Hop out of my car. I look over. Somebody slump over in the truck. So I'm like, this isn't good. And I just remember like, what am I gonna do here? Like, anybody else could have easily just been like, I'm just gonna drive away. I'm like, nah, I can't. I gotta help this person out. So I wake this guy up. I don't know if he's drunk or if he's what. I'm like, yo, he finally wakes up. He wakes up like mad. He's like, why are you waking me up? I'm like, dude, I'm sleeping. Yeah, like, dude, you're in the middle of the intersection. And he's like, oh, sorry about this. I was like, you okay? And, I think he's okay. And then I end up driving off. And then so I pull around him or whatever. And then I hear more honking. So I'm like, what? So I park my car. I run back, same spot. And so I literally, like, thankfully somebody else pulled up, again, more good people. They saw what was going on. They jumped out and helped me. So we had to get this guy out of the car. It's in a big, like, Ford F-150. It's huge. So open up the car. I'm like, dude, we got to get you out. And try to get him out of his seatbelt or whatever. He does, but he does not put the car in park. So the car starts going.
Wow.
This is not good. All that to say is, like, even when you don't think that you're making a difference, you easily could be. And I think just that sense of help is something that's ingrained in me. And obviously, I would like to be in better situations to where I'm not having to help like that. But I did get that fulfillment when I was nursing a lot. Dude, there were some people, there was an opioid pandemic at the time. And so you sometimes deal with people that just take advantage of the system, and it's sad. But then there's other people that you know that just need the extra care, and I'm so glad to provide that for them. And just like in personal training, like some people just need the extra person there just to be there with them. Hey,
Yep.
look, you got this. Look, you're making the right decision by showing up and working out today. And I think that is another thing that fulfills me, for sure. That's probably like the biggest driving force is the altruism of it all.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, that's 100% clear just in
Yeah.
talking about all this sort of stuff.
Right.
I mean, again, you're wanting to go back into nursing and be a personal trainer at the exact same time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's no gray area of like whether you truly enjoy
Right.
helping people or
Right.
not. And I think like that's the cool thing is like there's so many different ways to be helpful to people.
It's true.
Just like we were talking about earlier, like me walking up to somebody isn't to sell them on being at the gym and welcome to the cult. Oh my God. You know, it's like, I just want to help you be more comfortable.
Sure.
Making this podcast, like, yeah, sure. It's like, I want it to be a cool podcast that's well branded and hopefully it gets a bunch of listens and all
Right.
this sort of stuff. Like, yes, it is a bit of a career motive.
Sure.
But I also just started it because I love having real
Conversations.
conversations with people.
Yep.
I love just connecting with people because I also know what conversations like this did for me
Right.
of other shows and stuff that I have listened to. I know how it helped me shape a perspective or believe in myself more or get different perspective that I didn't have before on things. So it's like, okay, yeah, it might be disguised as a bright yellow show that Ross thinks he's cool for doing. Really what it is just like true, authentic conversations that I really hope help somebody
Right.
who listens.
Right.
You know, and yes, I get to do it in an entertaining form and I get to have fun
Right.
having these conversations and make new, I mean, every new person I have on the show, I mean, judging by all the stuff that we talk about, we gain a pretty good friendship.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's
Agreed.
people in here that I have them come on for the first time. We're meeting for the very first time. And yeah, they might not be sharing all their deep, dark secrets.
Sure.
But we're tiptoeing into that territory much more than a casual, like, hey, what's up in the place that we're in. Right. And I love that because I think there's so much value. And again, circling back around to what we're talking about, there is just so much value in connecting with other people.
I agree.
And saying that sounds like a very surface level statement of
It's
duh.
true. Yeah, no, but at the
But
same
it's like-
time, that it is, man. I feel like even if it's not as cool of a conversation as this, like, I honestly feel like tougher conversations need to happen too. And again, it's the sense of connecting with people and getting vulnerable with each other. I feel like there's not enough of that anymore. Like, if it's not one environment where it's kind of turning people against each other, it's another environment that is keeping people apart just in general. And I agree, dude. I feel like conversations and connecting are such big things, and they could be different forms of help for so many different people.
That I think is one of those, you know, we've kind of mentioned in a handful of different things we've talked about today. Like, we've kind of mentioned often like the idea of slowing down and gaining that perspective. I feel like conversations and getting to know somebody is a form of slowing down.
Agreed.
It is a form of just taking time.
Yep.
And yes, I know people are busy and there's work and there's things to be done and all this sort of stuff, but it's like there is incredible amounts of value in just sitting down with somebody.
Right.
And yes, it doesn't have to be a 2-hour conversation or
No,
whatever, but like
even-
just let the conversation go.
Right.
See where it goes.
Right.
Let's not worry about the small talk
Right.
of, man, weather's been pretty hot
I'm about to say
recently.
you have that every day anyway.
Dude, I don't know about you, and if you have any tips, let me know. I'm bad at small talk. I've
Oh, man.
realized like it's this, I feel like I'm in this weird gray area where like I can talk to anybody about anything.
Right.
But that small talk starter portion, I'm really bad at.
Oh,
Like I can't just sit down and be like, yeah, so what have you been up to lately?
Right.
I'm like, where do you want to be in 10 years?
Exactly. No,
Like,
no,
it's-
that's good.
It
See,
sounds stupid,
it's
but like,
funny. No, I feel like I'm the same way, and I feel like I'm aware of it. So it's like reading a room, right? Like, there's been plenty of times where I'm like in a whole bunch of room of like random people that I don't know, and you have that awkward silence. So in my mind, I'm the same way, dude. You get the small talk out of the way, but as soon as the small talk's out the way, you're like, oh my God. And so I think like the heaviness of it all, again, I'm leaning head first, and so I'll just say something silly. I really will. I'm like, man, you know what? we'll talk about the weather. I'm like, man, I wish I was a meteorologist. Those guys don't do anything. And then we'll just wait. And like, if I don't hear any sound, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna put that one back in my pocket, just make myself look like an idiot. I'll be the one to look like an idiot just to make sure everybody else feels comfortable. So that's my only tip. You do it pretty well, man. I feel like it's true. But not everybody is gonna be open enough to have the deep conversation. That's the tough part too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, it's really refreshing once you do have somebody that's willing to dive in there. And again, it's cool to try it with everybody, but you do have those walls where you're like, oh, well, this isn't going anywhere.
That's one of my favorite challenges is breaking down those walls.
Yep,
Not in an aggressive way,
right?
But like chipping away at it. Because like and I'm sure you've had this too, like especially being a personal trainer.
Oh, yeah.
Like I love those moments where like you start to have a conversation that starts out pretty casual and someone's maybe just kind of complaining about something.
Sure.
Like, oh man, this fucking thing happened. It sucks, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of keep asking more questions like, okay, well, man, that's so why does it suck, right?
Yeah.
And then, so like, what do you feel like is maybe one of the only solutions you have, right? And then like, you almost end up helping them guide themselves to an answer that they didn't know that they had within them. And there's been so many times, and this is one of my favorite things to hear from people, is like, you'll have that conversation and they're like, dude, I have not had a conversation like that, like in a long time or maybe ever. Like, I didn't know we were about to talk about that, but like, man, it feels great that we did. Like, and I'm talking like, I've had that conversation with like friends over Xbox.
Right.
Like, we'll be playing Warzone.
You're an Xbox guy, huh?
Yeah, I'm an Xbox.
Man.
Are you?
We have to trade some gamer tags.
Perfect. Yes. Then we're gonna. I don't know if you Warzone or not.
Oh, dude, Ryan's been trying to get me back on it. I need to download it. I had it before during the pandemic.
2 reasons.
Exactly. So
now
true.
Now you
so
have a couple
true.
reasons. Because that's pretty much the only thing that I play.
Right.
Like, there's
that's
literally
right.
the only thing that I play, right?
That's all good.
But like I'll be having, if it's just like me and one friend or whatever, sitting and we're just playing a video game. It's more about like it's like you're hanging out or you're doing something you don't really have to pay attention to.
Right.
You sort of do, but not really. And it's happened a couple times in that where, we'll just start kind of casually talking about something. And then all of a sudden they're kind of like therapy session, laying out all this sort of stuff. And then because you're actually listening, you're engaging in the conversation. You're not feeding into it in the sense of like, yeah, dude, that does fucking suck.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's somebody on it. Hey, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it's not that. It's like you're actually listening.
It's deeper, right.
And it doesn't have to be this like deep dive.
Right.
But there's ways to get a couple layers deeper
Sure.
than the normal small talk of like, oh yeah, dude, that fucking sucks. Anyway, whatever. It's asking those couple extra questions.
Exactly.
Giving them a little bit more attention than probably what a lot of other people who they're bringing those things up to, like, you're giving them probably just a little bit more attention than what those conversations are. And I think there's so much value in that little bit of a deeper layer.
And it's funny, like you said, like great conversations. And most of the time, like the best conversations are when you're just listening. Like you said, just give them a tidbit and then listen to them. And like literally listening to them, like you said. I think like was I telling Ryan about this? And it's funny because I'm just talking about Ryan because dude, I wish he was sitting in here talking to us right now because he'd be saying the same thing. Video game like relationships are some of my favorite. A lot of people like gain some really good friendships off of that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, are you guys having the conversation? I mean, Warzone, the more I think about it, obviously it's a battle royale, so there might be some moments where you guys are like just by yourselves, just kind of waiting it out. I think the thing I can think about is like in Overwatch. I'm a big Overwatch guy. So most of the time when you're like waiting to load into a room, that's where a lot of the conversations are happening. Mm-hmm. So obviously, like you said, you'll find your trolls on there who just want to be goofy, like, okay, whatever. And then you find like those people, like you say a joke and they laugh and you're like, okay, like I like this. Let me throw another joke at this guy. And then like you said, then you're having like really, really dope conversations with people you would have never expected to have a conversation with.
Well, that's like the unique thing about like, I don't know, online gaming in general is like a lot of the times for, I would say probably a higher percentage of people, that is a decompression of their day.
Sure. Agreed.
So they're almost subconsciously more vulnerable than maybe what because they're just on to play a video game.
Yep.
But guess what? When one friend says, yeah, dude, so what'd you do today? Now that's their opportunity that they've kind of been waiting for to almost unpack their day. And then again, it depends on. I'm not going to pretend like everybody's having podcast-worthy conversations in the freaking headset,
totally understand.
or nor am I saying they should.
Should, right?
But there's that opportunity there of like, yeah, that's their decompression for the day. So there's a good chance that they're going to kind of dump that out there, and you've almost got this on autopilot.
Exactly.
While you're playing the game,
You know
yes, there's some strategy. You got to pay attention, but I think. I also think humans have now formed that kind of like being able to kind of autopilot do this, but also think about it, but also do a thing over here. Like we're getting a lot better for worse.
For sure.
Better at multitasking, right? And I think video games like easy example of
Right.
that. You're sitting and you can kind of mindlessly be like, oh, there's somebody behind us, right behind us. Anyway, so yeah, today was really difficult. You know what I mean?
Jump in and out.
It's almost a subconscious kind of flow, and if you can feed into that and let them flow into that state, then you can just be that good listener.
That's so true.
And it's like, cool, you had fun playing video games, but also had this cool like little community friendship build in the same way. And I know we're making video games so much deeper than maybe what a lot of people think
make it deep. Make it deep because they need to understand.
I do think that that's what it is. And I'm sure if we had a legit gamer sitting right here, I guarantee, honestly, they'd be saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because like the amount of strong, incredible communities that are built online, especially with streaming and everything now, like streamers have some of probably their best friends that are other streamers, and their communities that are watching them and all that sort of stuff. Like that's not just some like silly, crazy thing. Like it's the same thing as like the gym. It's the same thing as really anything.
It's true. It's community.
It's the community aspect.
It's true.
There are good and bad communities or good and bad experiences you can have within those everywhere.
Right.
But at the core of that, it's still a community based around something that everybody is getting to share in the experiance of.
I agree, man. I totally agree.
I think we could be streamers.
Yeah, too. I think about it, man. Hey, man, I think about it. You let me know. You let me know.
Speaking on the note of, we're talking about doing all these things and building these fun communities and stuff. You've mentioned a couple times podcasting.
Yeah.
So are you actively doing it? Are you trying to get it started up? Like, tell me about it.
So I think just right now where I'm at, super disorganized. I have my podcast. I'm bringing it over here. Let me see. So originally, like, I wanted to do this when the pandemic hit anyway. I was like, here's my chance to like have some more space to like consciously think about what I want to do with my life. Like, dude, I love conversations, right? Just like you said. My podcast is called the Respawn Pod. And so just like you're thinking, like, when you die in Warzone, you get to go to the gulag, right? You get to respawn back. And so literally kind of happened to me in my life. And I think we're like maybe 13 or 14 episodes in. I've been trying to like do it weekly, but like even like when we were talking about setting up a date, I really like how your schedule's set up. Like you kind of record, you make sure you get them down, and then obviously you have to go and edit them out. And so what I'm trying to do right now is figuring out what's going to work to where I can consistently be putting stuff out. Like it's funny, like looking at the last episode I did as opposed to the first episode I did, and how much better I've gotten. I have so much work to do still, but like, man, I wish I can be more and more consistent with this. And so the subject matter, kind of like conversations, right? I'm trying to look to have more of those. There's a lot of things I like. There's a lot of things I love talking to people about. Dude, big movie buff. Love talking about movies, man. Love video games. I love all the nerdy stuff. I love anime. I love sports. I love talking about all these things, but trying to figure out a more productive way to get that out and then bring other people in. Like you said, man, to have, just a really deep conversation and let the conversation go. Feels so good. Like it's a refreshing glass of water every single time for me.
Well, I have to say, it excites me now knowing that you're podcasting and or getting into it, trying to build it and stuff. Because like I 100% think that I think you're made for things like this.
Oh,
I really do.
I
like
appreciate
not
that.
only like yes, in general, this has been a fun conversation. We've been talking about all this cool stuff, but your perspective on a lot of things is a really good perspective, and the things that you've experienced and your willingness to share them, I think. It carries a lot of importance. And just like you said, you listed off like a handful of different things. Like I love talking about all these things. It just doesn't have to be just, this linear life path of craziness or whatever. So even just that little bit, like I'm excited to see you hopefully continue doing that. And we can do this off the pod if you want in lieu of not making this, another like hour long.
No, you're good.
I would love to talk with you more about your podcast and stuff.
Please,
stuff like that gets me very hyped.
Cool.
Those are the things where like my gears immediately turn, because I love being a problem solver, especially in the creative world of any sort. So immediately when somebody tells me they want to do something, I don't have all the answers, but I might have some guiding points or some ideas that maybe somebody hasn't thought of. So I love having those little like brainstorming sessions of like, what if you did it like this? What if you did it like that? Like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. Because sometimes you need that soundboard. So that sort of stuff gets me really excited.
Cool, man.
So I would love to talk with you more about that.
And honestly, just throwing that back at you. Like, I knew that I wanted to come on here and just talk just because of how much I enjoyed the work you put in on a lot of your other episodes that I've seen. I'm like, man, I got to learn how this guy does this because I want to be able to better my craft. And like, I think I can appreciate, again, the community that I've stepped into being with FitOneFour, because one of the things that I've heard from the success around there is problem solvers. And I really like that a lot. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to have, like you said, all the answers right away, but let's figure this out and then let's brainstorm. I think in today's day and age, like, it's set up to where you have to do this or you don't have anything. And I think, again, perspective about everything is like, we're going to be gone like that, all of us. Like, you know, you think about the way the universe is and been around for billions of years. We only got maybe 100. Me, myself, I might live to be like 200 and something. We'll see what happens. But just like that. And so why shouldn't you be trying everything that you're passionate about? So,
because if you try and fail, then that's okay.
Well,
like,
that's all right.
I have this thing that I subscribe to so much, is that, like, I just am so down just to try stuff.
Right.
Because I don't like not allowing myself the experience of giving something a shot. And I'm talking whether it's a creative idea, whether it's going to the gym, or whether, you know, trying boxing with T. Like, I don't know, 2 sessions in, I could have hated it and been like, oh, dude, this is actually really hard. This is uncomfortable. I don't like it. Sorry, T. See you later. You know?
Right.
But it's like, if something pops in my mind and I'm capable of figuring out how to try and do it, I at least think it's important for everybody to give it a shot. It doesn't matter because it's probably not going to immediately work perfectly the first time or the next day or whatever. Like, yes, some ideas might take a really long time. Some goals could happen within a day, and it could just be an experience for you, and that's fun.
Right.
But I don't think people allow themselves the ability to just give something a shot enough. Because where I think the key is, and you just said this, is like, just because you're trying something doesn't mean that it's just that forever and that's it.
Right.
I think there's such a value to be unlocked in the idea of you can try something, and if it doesn't work and you don't like it and it doesn't fulfill you like the way that maybe you thought it would, guess what? You don't have to keep doing that.
So true.
You've marked it off the list of what ifs.
Right.
That's my biggest thing, is like I almost have a obsession with, like, not liking what ifs.
Right.
And sure, some what ifs are like, you know, I can't, like, oh, what if I started another Apple?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
come on.
That's and I can't even say I want to do that.
Sure.
So it's not even that big of what if, right?
Sure.
But the what if of, like, what if I started a podcast? What if I started a second podcast that was like this? Okay, that'd be fun. What if I shot a video that was like this? What if I wrote a script that was like this? Like, I think there's so much value in just letting yourself do those things, because I have learned, at least about myself, this goes back to knowing your why, knowing how much discipline you do or do not need or want for something. I understand that if I try something and I fail at it, or it doesn't work the way that I wanted it to work, I'm going to know how I feel about that result. And there's a lot of times where I will try something and I'm like, oh, I just needed to get it out of my system.
Right.
I don't need it to be a part of my daily life.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of, like, brand ideas, and I'm like, holy shit, like, that's such a good idea. Like, oh my God, I have to do it. And since I have a graphic design background, like, I'll go in and I'll, like, design the logo.
Sure.
And I'll see it exist in the world. I see it exist outside of my mind.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm like, that's really cool. I'm good now.
It.
That's it. I don't need to, you know what I mean? I can put it in my back pocket maybe for later, but I don't need to continue pursuing that, because it was almost more about just crossing it off the list, getting it out of my mind, seeing a version of it exist in the real world.
Right.
That is almost enough of a result, at least for me in most cases, where I'm like, cool, okay, I just tried it, and that's it.
I mean, isn't that, like, honestly the definition of, like, in some sense or some love, like self-love, right? Like I feel like, again, you talk about it, like you've been saying it, you're so scared to try something because you're so down on yourself to what it could be that you don't even give yourself the chance in the beginning. Like, love yourself enough to know that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's not the end of end all be all. And so I can listen to you talk all day, honestly. I'm really good.
Well, good, because I'm like 60 some episodes into this podcast, so
No,
I hope
solid,
that I'm
man.
at least pretty decent at talking,
man.
because it'd be bad if it was the other way around.
Right.
You're like, yeah, dude, I don't think I want podcast advice from you at all, man.
Just change my mind.
Can we wrap this up? Let me ask you this. What is your favorite piece of advice to share with your personal training clients?
Wow, that's such a good question.
And I know, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's
I
okay.
just asked you a question and then immediately stopped your answer. But, like, I also know that like everybody's prescribed differently. Like people
Sure.
need different things.
No.
But like, what's kind of your favorite like almost go-to connector piece of like,
Man.
this is what helps somebody unlock something in themselves?
It's so good that you asked that, because the way I kind of formulate my intake process with them is I allow them to get deep. I go through, I ask them like where their motivation is, and, letting them know kind of what to expect and what they expect out of me as a personal trainer, like asking them those questions. And then once they get deep with me, then I get deep with them, like, hey, this is kind of what got me here today. And the biggest advice I give to them is just as much as we've been talking about today is like, listen, you're a human being. Like, we're all human beings here. Like, clearly you made the decision to come in here, so you want a change. I want to be here to help you give you some sense of motivation, and to let you know that you can do this. Like, this if this is in your mind, you can do it, and don't be so hard on yourself. I tell them all the time, like, think about being in like a really, really serious situation. Like, you're getting ready to jump. You know that you have to jump, and then let's just say you're diving. You have to do this amount of flips. You've been practicing this moment, right? Now, if that moment doesn't work out the way you expected it to, totally fine. But jump into this moment and feel free enough to give it your best shot. Like, there's a difference between like going through the motion, like, okay, I'm doing it, rather than like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna give myself a chance. Like, really, really trust myself that I can get through this, and then I'm gonna take the shot. I made the commitment to come into the gym and to sign up. I'm going to show up for these next couple months, these next phases, and we're going to see how it is. If it's not working, communicate that to me. That way we can adjust and pivot. I think the hardest thing about like personal training and like knowing about fitness and results is fitness is such a broad terminology, right? If somebody come in and I would ask them like, what are one of your goals? And they say to be more fit. Well, what does that look like? What does that truly look like? And you don't want to always get into the aesthetics and stuff like that, but as a personal trainer, you need something to measure. Like, let's measure this. Now, if you're totally okay with just coming in, like, I want to work out every day, I just know I need that extra motivation, I'm here to give that to you. And I tell them that. I say, listen, at the very least, at the end of all this, I just want you to feel more comfortable coming into a gym and knowing what's going on inside of the gym. If you walk away and that is all you've gotten out of this, then I truly believe that I've done my job as a personal trainer. So
Yeah. Okay, another question.
Mhm.
Looking back at whether it is something you experienced in nursing
Sure.
or personal training or the insane experience that you lived through,
Right.
what do you feel like the biggest lesson that you have learned in your journey up to this point has been, and where did it come from?
The biggest lesson that I've probably continued to learn and that I've really been honing in on is being present. Be present, because those moments can be taken away from you. You could totally just be wandering off, like thinking about something else or being so mad at somebody about something, rather than being present in the moment. And when I mean being present, like, take a deep breath, smell, like, feel the way the cold air goes up through your nose. Feel what it feels like when there's like something on your arm. Like, be as present as you can be all the time. We're all human beings. That is such a hard concept to imagine all the time, but if you can just find a moment to where you're like that, stuck with your thoughts, but just seeing them as thoughts and staying present, I think that life would be so much more beautiful,
Dude, this has been such a fun conversation.
Oh, man. Thank you. Likewise, man. I highly appreciate you inviting me on here, man.
Dude,
this is cool.
I am stoked that you were down. Again, look at this. We finally got to know
I
each
know,
other and
dude.
have that deep dive conversation that we both love to have. And I mean, dude, this episode started with, we just opened the floodgates right at the beginning of just
Jumping in the hot
the
water.
crazy story that I had been filled in on a little bit but had not heard, and that is just wild. And it's wild in a very cool way, just to hear your perspective on everything and to hear the mindset. I know it's an overused term, but just to hear the mindset that you're carrying with things and the value that you're trying to spread to other people. And it's like you're continuing to try and do that. You know, you're not just like, oh, I'll do it a little bit. It's like it's awesome to me that you're, still wanting to be a nurse again while being a personal trainer and wanting to do a podcast and hoping to inspire people. And I'm sure there's other things we haven't even talked about really that you're like, yeah, I'd like to do this too. So yeah, dude, all in all, like, I just heavily appreciate you sharing the story, sharing your entire story, talking about all the things we've talked about. And again, let me say that like this has been a really, really fun conversation, a really fun podcast, and I think you should definitely do your own as well.
Thank you, man.
Let me be maybe a driving force
please.
and like at least try it out. You might find out, like we talked about, you might find out, actually that whole podcast thing's not for me. I shouldn't be doing it. But hey, you never know unless you're like committing and giving it a shot. So I end every episode of this show with the exact same question. So I'm going to toss it your way now.
Bring it on.
So right now, I want you to pretend like everybody, everywhere in the entire world is listening to you speak. They're on the other end of that microphone. So you have a live mic connected to everybody. You get to share something with them. What is it that you want everyone to hear?
True strength does not have a form. It doesn't have a gender. It doesn't have a color. It doesn't have a brand. I think true strength literally comes down to a decision that you know is the right choice to make and maybe not the easiest choice to make. It could be from, getting up and knowing that you have so many excuses to get somewhere, like so many excuses from me to the gym. Or strength could also be not throwing the first punch, or strength could also be forgiving somebody who could have easily taken your life or tried to. If you find any kind of level of that strength and you really apply that to your life, I honestly think that is a big improvement on anybody's life, and I hope everybody takes that with them.
I love it, man. Thank you again, dude.
Thanks for having me,
So
dude.
before we officially say goodbye, if you want anybody to find you around the internet, want to go check out what you're doing, or they want to maybe go check in, see when this podcast might keep popping up, or just talk to you about your story or anything, or reach out to you about personal, getting your services, a personal trainer,
Sure.
like where can they find you around the internet if you want them to find you?
No, sweet. One of my biggest platforms right now that I'm kind of working on, TikTok, Jaylee Hardgrow. That should pretty much have a link to my podcast, The Respawn Pod. You can find that on Spotify. You can find that on Apple. I'm also on Instagram too. If you're looking for any kind of personal training online, in person especially, and if you're in the New Albany area, come to FitOneFour. Come check us out. I think you would really like it. If you're looking for me online, DM me on Instagram, DM me on TikTok. You guys should be able to find me over there. Again, dude, I thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you for making the time. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bud.
We did it, dude. We did it. That's a podcast.
Thank you, man. That was sweet.
Okay, so a huge thank you goes out to Jordan for being on the show and coming on the show to tell a story that I'm sure he's told so many times at this point. So thank you, my friend, for sharing it one more time right here on this show for what was seriously a rad conversation. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you want to check out what Jordan is up to with everything that he's doing, you can follow him at jwork_21. You can also check out his podcast that he did indeed start back up. It's called The Respawn Pod. And of course, you can find it everywhere that a podcast exists, just like this one. So toss him a follow, reach out, and hey, if you want to go train with him and hire him as a coach, for sure, reach out to him, or you can currently find him and all his personal training information over at FitOneFour.com. So let's get to the wrap up. All in all, if you did enjoy what you heard here on the show this week, tell somebody about it. Share it on social. Let people know how cool you thought it was. Tag me, tag Jordan, tag the show. Feed that algorithm and let it know that the show is of any amount of importance. So if you really want to help out, though, and support, there's a few other ways you can do that. First, you can simply support by following us on social at WYDH Pod. I also ask you to pretty please hit the follow or subscribe buttons wherever you're listening. It would also be super cool if you tossed up a rating or review for the show as well. Toss us some stars on there or leave a written review if you really liked what you heard. And if you want to keep up with all these episodes in video form, both these full-length stories and the shorter topic-based 15-minute Fridays, you can do so by subscribing to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ross Tyson. That is where you can find every one of these in video form. So Do all the things, feed the algorithms, let the AI know that this show is cool, tell somebody about it, whatever you can do to help spread the word of this podcast and get these stories heard in more ears, or really whatever form. It truly helps a whole lot more than you may understand. So one last reminder also to check out this week's sponsors, Makers Social, the DIY craft bar located in the Franklinton Arts District. You can visit makerscolumbus.com and enter WYDH in the notes of your checkout for $10 off your reservation. And of course, also to PromoWest Productions and all the shows that they've got coming through Columbus. For more info on all of that, you can visit promowestlive.com. So, as always, support if you can and support if you want, but even if you don't, I just thank you so very much for checking this episode out. So thanks for listening, and if you're on YouTube, thanks for looking, and I hope you do stick around for more because, well, as always, the train's going to keep rolling. I'll be back next episode with a brand new guest that you may or, well, may not know of, but a guaranteed brand new story that you for sure never heard.